Oh yeah, and you can also answer in the chat. That's totally cool. I am looking at the chat, so feel comfortable. And if you could just give me some feedback on like, I've used MailChimp before or I've never used MailChimp before, even that would be really helpful. I know some of you are listening on your telephone, so don't feel pressure to like give feedback. I'll just like I'll just like plow forward regardless. All right, so I'm seeing that some people have used MailChimp before. Perfect. Perfect, yeah. Okay, well, I'll just go over the intro quickly and feel free to stop me at any time if you have a question. I don't mind being interrupted. So there's that. Let's see here, start my share screen. All right. So hopefully everyone can see the screen now. So when you set up your MailChimp account, the first thing that you're going to do after you verify your account through your email is you're going to come up with this situation here where it kind of gives you some like plan details. I'm going to assume that for the most part, like for in a small museum or gallery context, that the free plan is going to be perfectly acceptable. It has all the basics. It is super convenient. You can have up to 2,000 contacts, which is super awesome. The main like pitfalls of the free plan are that you can't remove the MailChimp branding and you can't like schedule campaigns ahead of time. So that's definitely like the perk of like moving upwards, like in a paid plan scenario, if those resources are available. So you can kind of set up your name. So we'll just go. So you can kind of just fill out your business name. I'm gonna just use my own. All right. So this is kind of a cool feature that MailChimp has implemented. If you don't have an in-house graphic designer or a marketer, or you find like using Adobe products like really overwhelming because they are, MailChimp now has like a custom feature where they'll like look at your actual website and pull some like branding tools off of it for you. So it can really help you when you're building an email, and I'll show you how to do that based on my own website. So you can click import my brand if you like, and it'll start pulling colors from your, I think this is one of my customers' business email addresses, but that's okay. So I'll say yes. Let's see, you can kind of fill out like what you do. If you're like a museum, you might say like, I do neither. Neither. So you can do like you can choose like extra emails. One of the features of choosing the extra emails is actually that they send some really cool stuff, some really inspiring video, graphic design. They feature other small businesses. There's a lot of really cool ways that you can use MailChimp, and they are so good about providing resources for people who don't use email marketing on a regular basis, or people who are really new to email marketing, or tools for entrepreneurs. There's a lot of really great stuff there, and you'll be able to kind of access that. So some of this stuff is really cool if you want to see like films and podcasts. I really recommend them. They're really awesome. You can get advice on how to like build your audience. I'm going to give you some of that as well, but they often have like tools. It's really cool. Okay, so this is what we're looking at here. I'm just going to make this a little smaller so I can like see it better. So you can choose how you want to start it out. If you want to add contacts or create an email, I'll show you how to do that later. So I'm going to show you how to import contacts. That's probably one of the hardest parts about MailChimp, and a part that like a lot of people make a lot of sort of mistakes with, mostly because a lot of people, especially in like a nonprofit context, upload their MailChimp contacts in separate audiences. So sometimes people will upload contacts for like a specific event, and then like audience, like they'll add contacts for a newsletter, and then all those contacts are duplicates or disparate or don't receive all of the information, and it can be really hard to organize. And once you have it set up that way, it can be really hard to shift that newsletter to be more effective. So it's like really important that you set up your audience correctly kind of the first time. Audiences can be really useful in like a limited context. So for example, if you have a board and you want to do email marketing for your board, you can have a board audience, and that can just be like your specific like board emails or information, things that you want to remain confidential. That could be a useful way to use an audience, but definitely not necessary, because we're going to talk about tags, which is way more important, way easier to organize.
That is, I'm just going to jump in with a question / comment. That is something that I found, because we use MailChimp on the free plan, and just we've never been kind of limited by the amount of contacts and that sort of thing. But that is something that I have found challenging, is just I think they reduced the amount of audiences, or I think back a few years ago, they used to call them lists. And so I found it, I'm excited to hear what you have to say, because I found it difficult to segment with the free plan.
And if you already have audiences as opposed to using the tag system, you will have to download all your contacts and re-upload them on an audience, and you have to wait, I think, 24 to 48 hours in order to delete those audiences so that you can upload your contacts again. Especially if you're using the free plan where you're limited by audience members. So for example, if you have like 1,600 subscribers, but they're all in different audiences, you won't be able to upload them right away because you'll be capped. So it is kind of like a process. So it definitely makes like uploading, and it's confusing, to be honest. So it makes it a lot easier if you just do it as tags the first go. And MailChimp is really like trying to help people through that process by like limiting audiences or talking about what audiences actually do, etc. So I'm gonna just like make here, I'm pretty sure I have some audiences like already in. Let's see. Let's just use. So when you put a audience into MailChimp, you want to make sure that the file is a comma separated value sheet. So that's a .csv. It's an option when you export out of Excel or Numbers for Mac. So you could just make sure that you export as a .csv file. One thing that's really important when you do that is that you want to make sure that people are separated in columns by their last name, then their first name, and then any relevant information you want to include, like birthday, their business, like where they're from. That's all optional. And then their email address, and you want to make sure that their email addresses are uploaded properly. And well, I get a lot of people who put like a comma instead of a period. It's just like a typo. Just make sure, it pays to double check everything, because if it's entered incorrectly, it won't upload to MailChimp. So when you pop your contacts into the previous page, you'll get this page. So this is how you organize your contacts. As long as they're all subscribed, you want to click subscribed. A good way to do that is, I'll talk about why it's important to subscribe, if that's okay. If people are not subscribed and they report getting emails from you as spam, instead of just unsubscribing from your emails, it has a negative effect on your ability to send emails effectively in the future. And if you continue to send emails where people are reporting you as spam, your account will be suspended through MailChimp. So it's something that a lot of people don't take very seriously, where they're like, oh, well, I have their email for this, so I'm just going to subscribe them to our newsletter. I would definitely caution against doing that. I would make sure that you actually have people's permission to subscribe them to a newsletter before you do. It might seem like you want to get a lot of information across. And that's like the best way to do it is by just like uploading every email that you have access to. But I can tell you that it's far more worth it for you to build a list of people who are actually engaged with the things that you're doing. Even if it's a small list, it's going to be so much more effective. So once you select subscribed, you can say update any existing contacts. This is really important because if people change their information, you want to be able to keep it up to date, and to manually change people's information is quite difficult. It's a bit of a roundabout situation, so it's definitely important if you're uploading contacts and some of that information is changed, just update any existing contacts. So this is the tagging section that I was talking about. Instead of making an audience for every list that you have, it's really important to tag. So for example, you can say member. They're a member of your gallery. They support your space. You can say board of directors. Create board of directors tag. So now all these people that I'm uploading will be tagged as both members of my space and members of my board. The great thing about tags is that you can choose, when you upload a whole bunch of people, you can choose, I just want to send an email to my board of directors tag, and anyone who's tagged as a board of directors person will receive that email. It's super straightforward. It's super easy. It's really nice. You can also add things like 2021 if you want to make sure that like your lists are up to date all the time. And you can like have members who paid in 2020 who didn't pay in 2021. You can kind of like keep track of everyone who is a member in that way. I think member lists are probably like the easiest way to create your MailChimp list when you're a small gallery or a small museum space, because your members actually care about your space. They want to be involved, and yeah, so you can continue to match. So this is kind of what ends up happening if you don't have things tagged correctly. It'll give you this like not recognized, not recognized. So you have to click on these and enter, this is this person's last name, confirm, this is this person's first name, confirm. That's how to sort of like shift if you find stuff that isn't working. I have another thing. Let's see, we'll just put that as our phone number for now, just to get things rolling. So now you've got your, I like this cute little Giphy here. I think it's like super adorable. MailChimp does a really good job of being like really accessible, I think, and like really fun and playful. And their Instagram is really good too if you want to get like ideas for inspiration. They're so fun. All right, so this is kind of your dashboard here. And I'll just skip this for a second. So this is kind of what your homepage looks like in campaigns. This is how to look at your audience, this little guy here, audience. So you can like look through different like audience resources. You can upload more contacts. This is kind of a great feature here, this create form. You can create a pop-up form for your website. It's only certain websites will have the ability to do that. So WordPress, if anyone's working in WordPress, super great integrations with MailChimp. Shopify has really good integrations with MailChimp. Squarespace has good integrations with MailChimp. There's a few websites that are going to function a lot better than others. So just kind of, there's a lot of really good resources about how to create pop-up forms and link your website and do things like put a member sign up form like in your email that like links back to your website. It's all like fairly complicated for an introductory course, but if you ever have any questions about something like that, you can always contact me. I'm like very happy to help, because I know that it can get like a bit intense to start doing some of that like MailChimp stuff, especially if you're doing your own in-house marketing, especially if you're doing in-house marketing with volunteers. Let's see here. So you can start to create your first campaign. The first thing that I recommend doing is creating like a template that you can recycle. So you can go to email templates. And if you're able to monitor the chat, just in case anyone has questions that they're like typing in the chat, that'd be super awesome. I just want to make sure I don't miss anyone.
You bet. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. So once you're in this like template section, you can create a template. It gives you some really good options that are part of the free area, depending on what you're looking for. I often go with a more basic, just like column structure. That's going to be super easy to use. It's like super handy. One thing I would recommend is kind of choosing like whether you want like a full screen or like a condensed screen. They're both going to be really good for mobile use as well. It's all automatically built into MailChimp, which is what's so great. You don't have to worry about like mobile accessibility and web accessibility. It's all going to be there. It's going to automatically size things. One important thing to note about that process is that if you're typing and you have like orphan text, which is where like one word is hanging over like this, don't stress about it. That will automatically shift depending on how people are viewing the email. So it's important to just like let that hang out, especially if you don't have someone who's doing graphic design for you. A lot of people will do graphic design. They'll just like design the email in InDesign. All the text will be fixed and part of that image, and then they'll upload it as an image. That's super good. And you can do it that way, but it's harder to access. It's harder to create buttons. It's harder to show products if you have any. Like for example, if you have gallery or museum merchandise, depending on the size of your space, if you have like gift shop stuff online, which I think is an underutilized thing that you can do if you're in a smaller museum space and you sell local products. You can do this all in MailChimp as opposed to in like a designed image. And it works a lot better, and it's going to be a lot easier and a lot more accessible for people who are receiving the email.
That's definitely one thing that I'll comment on too, as someone who puts together like a newsletter that's like kind of a roundup of other people's things. When it's just an image uploaded with the details, it's really hard for me to like then take that content and be able to share it with our network. So I definitely appreciate it when it's more text-based within the newsletter myself.
100%. And it's like, it's great because it'll kind of work really well with any kind of viewer. So if people have their cell phone on dark mode, for example, it'll automatically shift colors, it'll change text, it'll condense images and text like for whatever email platform that you're accessing, which I think is especially important if you're using like a sastel.net email which tends to like condense emails quite badly. It doesn't have like a lot of bandwidth per email. Okay, so this is kind of what you get, just like a really simple thing here. I'll talk about the different like spaces. So viewing your email in the browser. This is the pre-header. This will allow people to open the email in a browser tab that allows people to see your images better if they are viewing on a platform that condenses images or text. The size, because MailChimp emails tend to be fairly large, even though they're limited in terms of like image pixels and like each image has to be less than 2 megabytes, that kind of stuff. They are limited, but some platforms will cut off email messages more than others. If you upgrade, you can see how the email will look on different platforms. It's a really cool feature, but it's honestly not worth it if you're not sending out like tons of product emails or tons of like, it's not necessarily something that you need to spend a lot of money on in a small context. But it does exist, so that's kind of why I'm letting you know. This space is for your logo. So if you want to add a logo, you can click on this. And for example, this is the Creative Assistant tool that'll upload images from your website, which is pretty neat. If you want to see what that looks like, I'll do it right now. I do that all the time. Heck. Sorry. I have the side scrolling feature on my laptop, so sometimes if I'm like, and it's really sensitive, so sometimes if I'm not paying attention, I'll like go back a space. All right, we'll go back to Creative Assistant here. All right, so this is some of my work here. It pulls images. It kind of pulls like different things from your website. So let's say you can choose this if you want to. It's not a perfect system, as you can see. It's a bit glitchy. It works better for images as opposed to like your logo. But I just wanted to show you, like, it'll pull stuff off your website. It'll pull like words, images, like different kind of things. If you want to upload an image, you can either drag and drop an image from your Finder folder into MailChimp, as long as it's the right size. The maximum size width for images in MailChimp is less than 2 megabytes or 1200 by 1200 pixels. A lot of standard like landscape photos, if you want to keep them in that like 1200 by 800 pixel range, you're going to be smooth sailing. If you drag and drop images into MailChimp, it's going to let you resize more easily than it will if you upload an image in their upload page. Just an FYI, that's like something I've definitely learned. Let's see, I have my logo in here. I also have a lot of invoices here, apparently. This is an example of ensuring that you label your files really well, which I don't. I would describe my computer as chaos land most of the time. Let's see, I'll just upload something random here. I see you chat here. Oh, thanks, Em.
Yeah, that was just me.
All right, so when you drag and drop an image, you'll see this message sometimes. The image is too big, it causes slow load, or it'll get clipped in people's inboxes. So you can fix it. It'll let you edit. This MailChimp has a really great editor. Some of them who knock off like MailChimp aren't nearly as like easy to use or straightforward. So now we have it at 1200 by 1200. If you need to change this, you can say 800, you can press tab, it'll automatically resize it, save and close. MailChimp will automatically resize things for you, but sometimes it's not perfect. It'll like size it to less than 2 megabytes, but it won't resize the pixels. So you sometimes have to manually sort of adjust that. When you upload an image, you're gonna see like this white box around. You can keep that, or you can shift it by going into style, where you can click edge to edge. That'll give you the full image, which is nice. You can add a border if you want to. I tend to recommend like being as minimal as possible, just because people are, you want to get as much information across as you can without being like too frivolous, because I would say like the average person, the average like sort of statistics on an email is that like 50% of your audience might open the email. And about like 1% of your audience might actually click the links in your email back to your website. You want to make those numbers as high as possible. You want a really engaged audience. So that's why it's important to like make sure that people want to be subscribed to your newsletter. If people want to be there, they will open your emails, and you have a higher chance of them moving through to your website. That's not only important for search engine optimization, which is like a bit of a like technical way of saying like ranking, Google rankings. It's really important. The more people that are traveling to your website, the higher your domain authority for your website, the more likely people are to see you. If people are Googling where to go in Waskesiu, and you want to be kind of like up there so that people are like, come in, visit your space. I think that's super important. So something to consider. You can also change the size of this, how big it displays by scrolling. You can make it really big or really tiny. Depends on your sort of aesthetic. You can make it a full circle if you want to. It's kind of a handy little tool. So for text, the one thing I recommend is not really changing anything in here. Go to style, select the full font that you want, the size that you want. I recommend between like 16 and 18 pixels, just because it's really easy to see, it's really flashy. Choose the color that you want, bold, center text if you want, and choose the spacing that you prefer. One reason why it's important to do this is that if you have like a lot of different formatted text in your text blocks, when it sends as an email, it can really like skew that text a lot, and like it might not convey the sort of message that you're trying to get across, or it might be like pretty unreadable. So it's really important to make sure that you have like kind of a solid set of things going on. One thing I would recommend is not having this on bold. One thing I'd really recommend is like if you have calls to action, which are like sign up for our course or come visit the gallery, you can highlight those and bold them in this space. Bolding sentences in a block of text is a really great way to get people to pay attention to that information, because they might not read all of the text that you send. So it's really important to be both concise and to like draw people's attention. This guy right here, the reason it's displaying kind of crooked is because it's already set as a heading. So I tend to just get rid of those. MailChimp has them automatically. And if anything like that happens, you can just clear styles. So it'll just give you back get you back to what you're looking for. You can bold stuff that's important. To create new text blocks, you just click and drag. Super simple. And if you want all of your text blocks to look the same, you can use this tool, apply to all text blocks, and it'll automatically change all the formatting of all your text blocks in your body, which is a nice way to make sure that all of your text is aligned, especially if you're, for example, dragging and dropping more images. So let's see. This is the main folder. This is an album I thought was really, an album design I thought was really cool. I'll upload it. If you really like jazz, this is a great jazz album. So there we go. So now you can shift this style. So you want it to be round as well. So you want it to be all the way to the edge. Same thing, you can choose how big it is. So you want to be able to like break up text. Breaking up text allows people to read information more easily. It encourages them to continue scrolling, which is a great way to give them information. And then the last thing I kind of want to talk about, actually I'll do, oh, what have I done here? The last thing second last thing, your footer here is going to be automatically filled. You can't change this text because of spam laws. This will be automatically filled in. It's coded. It will show all of your information that you've added into MailChimp. So if your address is incorrect, it will be incorrect. So just double check everything. Send yourself a test email. I'm going to show you how to do that. It's recommended anyway because you want to make sure all your links are working, all your text is showing. If you have things like YouTube videos in here, which you can add, it's important to make sure that they're displaying properly in emails. There's lots of different stuff going on there. So if you want to add a button to your website, this is what it's going to look like by now. Same thing, drag and drop. For buttons, you can edit the text. You can add website text. Let's see. Forgot my website there for a second. All right, and for the button text, you can also change the colors, the style, if you want it round or square. You can add borders. You can change the color. I'm gonna drag and drop a hex code calculator into the chat for anyone who wants to use it. It's a really great tool to have if you're like trying to choose specific branded colors and you have like just the Pantone color, or you kind of like need to figure out what this hex code is. It'll tell you this is a color code. So E2, EB2B, like I think this is like yellow. Yeah. So this is a great way to like shift those colors for you. You can change the contrast. One great thing about that, and I'll share this resource as well, is that is a contrast calculator. So it's an accessibility feature. Making sure that your colors have high contrast is a great way to be accessible to people who are visually impaired. So I will share that resource with you as well. All right, so once you've kind of got like some images and stuff, you can send a test email. So I'll send it to myself. I'll show you what it looks like. All right. Don't look at my chaos email here. All right, so some people will get this message here. Big part of why this happens is that you haven't customized your first and last name when you're sending to your clients. That's why it's, or to your members. That's why it's important to make sure that your .csv file has a first and last name, because when you send, you can choose to code in their first name. It's just a button. It's not like stressful at all. It'll show you how to do it. There's ways that you can make this like not show up. Another way is like making sure that people are subscribed. If they subscribe to things like you, their email filters are less likely to give them that like error message. So this is what the email looks like in my browser. There's a button here. Oh, I might have entered it wrong. Oh, I sure did. There you go. There's a reason for testing. A not on purpose reason for testing. So you can see I have a typo here. So that's why it's important to send test emails, so that you can actually see, oh, hey, I like entered this totally wrong. Now I can fix it. And that's what your email will kind of look like in a browser. And it'll auto fill in this information when it's not like when you're not setting up an email template. So if you set up a template and you're not sure why like this stuff isn't working, it's because in the create template form, it just won't show you the stuff that you're going to see in an actual email. But when you set up your first email campaign, it'll let you do all of the same things. It looks exactly the same. It's just that it's not a template anymore. So one last thing I kind of wanted to really touch on is this scrolly bar down here. This is the footer. You want to make sure that you go in and add all of the links for your, like, so I won't type in my Instagram, type in prairie typography and switch this to Instagram. It'll automatically change all of that. If you have Facebook, your website, if you have Twitter, if you want to include your specific email, if you want to make a Spotify link, if you write blogs for Medium, you can add anything on here. It has everything. It's super awesome. If your gallery has a Pinterest, I don't know, or LinkedIn, you can add everything. So it's a super awesome way to like let people easily click through. And you can add as many services you like or eliminate as many services as you like just by adding or deleting. And you can change the style of these as well. So you can shift the color of your background. You can create a border. The font is not super important in this context. And then you can also change the settings. So you can make it like a big scrolly bar. You can make it sideways. You can do outlined ones for your design instead. The colors are fixed, you can't change them. So you couldn't like brand your own colors, but you can like change them to just like solid colors if you like, or you can just like go with whatever colors they have as well. So this link will automatically generate in every email that you send. So it's important to have all your information added correctly. And that's why it's important to use an email template as well. So say you're really happy with this template, then you can save and exit, and you can say, this is my newsletter template. And you can create as many templates as you want. So if you want to have a board communication template, if you want to have a community outreach template, if you want to have a fundraising template, you can create all of that ahead of time. Or if you're part of the summer student, like the summer students every year, where you like hire the summer students through the government program, then you can maybe get a summer student to create all these templates for you that you can reuse for the rest of the year when you don't have access to that extra employee. So there's lots of great ways to utilize templates, specifically in a museum context. So when you're ready to set up a campaign, what you're going to do is, so create a campaign. You want to create an email, just a regular, let's go to regular email. Welcome to the gallery. This is your first email to your followers. So this is what the first page is going to come up to. Who are you sending it to? my contacts haven't finished uploading, but you'll be able to have like select your contacts, I guess. Let's see. I want to be able to show you that, so I'm just going to log into my own works MailChimp just to show you what this process of creating a campaign looks like, because I think it's really important. All right. So we're going to do a regular one. All right, so you can edit your recipients. We have a contact list audience, which I haven't cleaned up yet. You can choose all subscribers in the audience, or if you have tags, so let's see, these are people who need a website built, who've like expressed interest in building a website. That's who I want to target with my campaign this time. In a gallery museum context, it might just be members, or you might have it separated by kids classes or an event that you do regularly. There's lots of different ways that you can use those tags to your advantage. We have ours as segments, which I don't love and I'd like to change, but if you set your audience up properly, it'll have it as tags. This is what I was talking about for personalizing the to field. This is why it's important to have all your contacts entered properly. If you click this, you can say, I want to send an informal email to my members, so I want to use their first name. That's going to prevent some of the spam filters from blocking your email or sending that error message. Super great way of saying like, hey, I actually know this person and they've like actually signed up for this email and their name matches the name on their email contact. Double check this always. Sometimes it'll have your actual name if you're the person who set up the MailChimp. You want to make sure that you change it to your gallery or museum. For the subject, you want to make sure that you keep it as short and sweet as possible. Hey there, gallery enthusiasts. I spelled that wrong, but that's okay. When writing is your job, I feel like typos are frequent in all other ways. Your preview text, this is what's going to show up as like the subject. So you can say like new events for the summer for kids. And then you want to design your email. This is where you can choose to design a new email or head to save templates and choose an email template that you've saved. And it'll load that template up for you. And then all you need to do is replace the image. You can choose an image that you already have uploaded, or you can head to your Finder and drag and drop an image that you prefer, a new image. You can edit all of the text. Everything will be all ready for you. All of this stuff will be already linked, but it's still good to send yourself a test email to double check. And everything will be auto-filled. I'm going to show you the preview function. So you can enter preview mode here. This will show you what it looks like in a desktop format. And now you can see the text is showing up correctly because we're creating an actual campaign. It'll show you what it looks like on a phone as well, although it doesn't give you the option to change it to accommodate dark mode. So just know that if you have dark mode enabled on your cell phone or tablet, that it'll change the colors and the color of the text as well. So just expect that to happen. There's not a lot you can do to change that except for using pre-designed images with fixed font instead of the actual like MailChimp font. And then if you do pay extra, you can see how it'll look in every inbox. It'll give you like a full list of every inbox email platform that exists, which is like kind of a cool feature actually. yeah, everything looks good. So I'm going to send myself a test email. This is always super important. When you get an email, you can say, oh, hey there, this looks safe. And then you can kind of take a peek. You can click through the links to make sure that they work. Hey there, it's our Facebook. You can click buttons to make sure. This might not work actually because we changed our website. Oh, there we go. You can make sure it links properly to the things you're trying to advertise. Then you can continue. Once you're ready to send it, you can just go over all this information, make sure it's correct, and then you can send it right away, or you can schedule it for later. If you have it upgraded, you can pick a time that people are more likely to open it. MailChimp will automatically collect that data for you. That's really cool. It's a cool feature, and I think it's part of the $10 a month plan. So it's not like a super expensive additional feature. Or you can schedule it to go out like 9 p.m. Let's harass someone. The 9 p.m. email. Typically, you want to go. I say like 8 or 9 in the morning is like a really good time to send emails. Just in general, as a general rule. Then you can click schedule your campaign, and it'll automatically send it. You don't have to worry about it. It'll do it. After it's sent, in your campaign section over here, you'll be able to see all the data for each email campaign that you sent out. So we have pretty bad ratings for our own personal MailChimp, kind of like a mechanic who drives like a bad car. We're pretty bad at keeping track of our own emails at my work. So you'll be able to see like how many people have opened the email, how many people have clicked through from your email to the website. And if you have an e-commerce store linked up, so if you have a gift shop, which I think is a really cool thing to do, to add the gift shop digitally, as long as you have the staffing to be able to like accommodate that, then you'll be able to see like, oh, someone spent $300 because of this email campaign. You'll be able to see that information, which is really cool. And the best part about this is that you can print these reports and they can be useful in your grant applications. So if you have a really good audience feedback, you can include that information saying like, oh, this is like what we do for our emails. This is what that looks like. We send out educational content, and this is the real world data of like how that's being received, which is pretty cool. And if you're a super nerd, you can also connect MailChimp to your Google Analytics. It's a whole other thing, but it's like, if you already have that stuff set up, then it's a really good way for you to like track how your website is performing, or like whether people are actually visiting you. I think in a smaller gallery context, it's not, or museum context, it's not like as important, but especially because all of your website content will be localized anyway. So people will be searching for you in a local context as opposed to like a global context. That I think covers, that's like the ultra fast, super intense MailChimp introductory course. And I'm happy to answer questions now as well. So
well, I can thanks. First off, thank you. And second, I can lead off with a question. I know one of the things that we're currently doing, I'm going to launch it probably tomorrow actually, is I'm going to be doing a survey about our e-newsletter. And so I feel like a lot of e-newsletters, especially those of like nonprofit organizations, are kind of like stuck in a model that people don't like anymore. Like, for example, like ours is really, really long most of the time, and it ends up being like just a continuous scroll. And so that's one of the things that I'm trying to find out, you know, if people would prefer shorter, more frequent newsletters. And I'm trying to find out what kind of content they value the most so that we can kind of tailor their experience a little bit more. And so I was wondering, like, just from your perspective, like what are some of, you know, are there any kind of like now like best practices, like you want to keep it to a certain length, or that sort of thing? Like, what would your advice be kind of around like e-newsletter best practices and for like maybe length and frequency and that sort of thing?
So I have two answers. The first one is that MailChimp lets you send out surveys that are super easy to use, super easy to create, and they have an auto tagging feature. So for example, you can set a question like, what kind of emails do you want to receive? I want to receive newsletters about kids events. I want to receive newsletters about the day-to-day happenings at my nonprofit or small space. I want to receive board communications or AGM notifications, and it'll create, if anyone clicks any of those answers, it'll auto tag them as a contact, so that like when you're sending out emails, you can make sure that you're tailoring it to the specific audience. And that's a great way to like boost your audience engagement, because you're actually sending information to the people who want it, which is like the number one strategy for MailChimp, is like to just continuously assess whether you're sending out information to people who want it. There are some things that can like hinder that, which is like some email platforms you need to like add the gallery as a contact in order to whitelist the contact, so that you always get their emails. You can ask your subscribers to do that, or you can do a double opt-in feature, which like makes sure that like the person who's subscribing to your email gets another notification being like, yeah, just want to make sure that you want to subscribe to this email. That whitelists them as well, so that they'll always receive your sort of communiques, which is great. The second part of my answer is I would always limit your text as much as possible. Be super clear, super concise, break it into smaller paragraphs or sentences or calls to action. Calls to action is anything that requires like an action from the person. So if you want them to, if you're sending out a fundraising email and you want to do like a Giving Tuesday email, then you want to like make sure that that like call to action, like donate today, is like bold and clear and accessible. That's the best way to get people to like look at that information. When you bold text, it draws people's attention. When you add like graphics to text, so for example, if you want to add like a little like illustration of a mouse when you're sort of like click here, you can do that. You can really like play with it, and I encourage people to be creative. I would say that for an email, I would do no more than 3 separate topics, and I would make sure that you organize them in terms of importance. So if you are looking to get donations for Giving Tuesday, make that the first thing that people see. Make the images compelling. Try to avoid using stock imagery if possible, because people can tell that it's stock imagery. Use your faces, use your gallery, be creative with your photography. You can include YouTube previews about like why it's important to donate to the gallery. There's lots of ways that you can be creative on email. And if you sort of organize your information in terms of importance, with a call to action and a button or a link like in every section, you can make sure that people are able to like access that information quickly and efficiently, and they can donate faster, or they can sign up for your event faster, or they can reserve their spot for your AGM faster. Make sure that whatever you're trying to advertise is organized in terms of importance. And I would do no more than 3 topics per email. In terms of frequency of email, I tend to advise people to stick to 2 per month, or to use that tagging feature to ensure that like if you have to send out more emails, that you're sending them to the people who care about that information. So if you have some subscribers who really want extra information on the kids classes, and you have 6 kids classes running that month, send out 6 emails, but make sure you send it to the right people.
Awesome, thank you. That's a very good tip about the surveys. I didn't realize that, and I'm definitely going to use that. That was very timely.
And I know how you feel about surveys too. And the surveys through there are amazing. And that information is like super easily downloadable. And it's like integrated so that it's like properly tagged. It's like awesome.
Excellent. That's great. Well, I don't know. I've been keeping an eye on the chat here and I don't see any other questions. And I know we're coming up on time here. So I will, yeah, just thank you again, Edie. It was really useful. And especially as someone who, you know, I've been using MailChimp for many years now and I learned lots as well. So I think it was good for intro, but also people who kind of have a background in it. So that's great. So thank you for that.
Oh, no problem. And for, if you search hex code calculator on Google, that'll give you a really good color calculator. It'll help you find your branding colors. MailChimp will also, if you use that creative assistance tool, it'll pick out like the main colors from your website as long as your website's super well organized. And if you research color accessibility, there's a lot of really great tools that'll show you font sizes, contrasts, colors that are like super accessible to everyone in your audience. So
awesome.
And here, I'll type my email here so that if anyone has questions, you can reach out, feel free.
Great.
Oops. There we go.
Oh, awesome. Well, thanks again. And yeah, if there might be, I might reach out to you about some other things once I do the survey.
Well, and I hope to see a bunch of you in the art handling workshop as well. So I saw some of you in the QR code workshop as well. So I'm excited that there's such a good environment here.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, folks. Have a good rest of your week.
Bye, everyone.